श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रज भूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री श्री राधा शरद बिहारी भगवान की जय। सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshataya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10. This chapter is entitled Lord Krishna Leaves for Dwarka. Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. That's the title. We're doing text 5 today. Nadyaha samudra girayaha savanaspati virudhaha phalantyoshadhayaha sarvaha kamam anvritu tasya vai. Nadyaha samudra girayaha savanaspati virudhaha phalantyoshadhayaha sarvaha kamam anvritu tasya vai. Nadyaha samudra girayaha savanaspati virudhaha phalantyoshadhayaha sarvaha kamam anvritu tasya vai. Please chant.
Nadya samudra giraya savanaspati virudaha Palantya Oshodaya Sarva Kaman Anuvritu Tashavai.
Nadya Samudra Giraya Savanaspati Virudhaha Palantyashada Sarva Kamam Anvritu Tasya Vai.
Anyone else?
Natya samudra giraya savanaspati virudha Phalantya oshadai sarva kamam anvritu tasya vai.
Natya samudra giraya savanaspati virudha Phalantyo sadaya sarva kamam anvritu tasya vai.
Nadyaha samudra giraya savanaspati virudaha palanti asadaya sharava kamana avritu tasyavai.
Hare Krishna. Nadyaha samudra girayah savanaspati virudhaha फलन्त्योषधयः सर्वाः कामम् अनावृतु तस्य वे. Hare Krishna.
Okay, do word to word translation. Nadyaha, rivers. Samudraha, oceans. Girayaha, hills and mountains. Savanaspati, vegetables. Virudhaha, creepers. Phalanti, active. Oshadhayaha, drugs. Sarvaha, all. Kamam, necessities. Anvritu, seasonal. Tasya, for the king. By, certainly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. Purport: since Maharaj Yudhishthir was under the protection of the Ajita, the infallible Lord, as above mentioned, the properties of the Lord, namely the rivers, oceans, hills, forests, etc., were all pleased, and they used to supply their respective quota of taxes to the king. The secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Without his sanction, nothing can be possible. To make economic development by our own endeavors on the strength of tools and machinery is not all. The sanction of the Supreme Lord must be there. Otherwise, despite all instrumental arrangements, everything will be unsuccessful. The ultimate cause of success is the Daiva, the Supreme. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir knew perfectly well that the king is the agent of the Supreme Lord to look after the welfare of the mass of people. Actually, the state belongs to the Supreme Lord. The rivers, oceans, forests, hills, drugs, etc. are not creations of man. They are all creations of the Supreme Lord. And the living being is allowed to make use of the property of the Lord for the service of the Lord. Today's slogan is that everything is for the people, and therefore the government is for the people and by the people. But to produce a new species of, but to produce a new species of humanity at the present moment on the basis of God consciousness and perfection of human life, the ideology of godly communism, the world has to again follow in the footsteps of kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir or Parikshit. There is enough of everything by the will of the Lord, and we can make proper use of things to live comfortably without enmity between man and man, or man and animal, or man and nature. The control of the Lord is everywhere. And if the Lord is pleased, every part of nature will be pleased. The river will flow profusely to fertilize the land. The oceans will supply sufficient quantities of minerals, pearls, and jewels. The forest will supply sufficient wood, drugs, and vegetables. And the seasonal changes will effectively help produce fruits and flowers in profuse quantity. The artificial way of living, depending on factories and tools, can render so-called happiness only to a limited number at the cost of millions. Since the energy of the mass of people is engaged in factory production, the natural products are being hampered, and for this, the mass is unhappy. Without being educated properly, the mass of people are following in the footsteps of the vested interests by exploiting natural reserves. And therefore, there is acute competition between individual and nation. There is no control by the trained agent of the Lord. We must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison here and should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthir to cleanse man and wipe out anachronisms. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nadyah samudra girayah savanaspati virudhah Palantyoshadhayah sarvaha kamam anritu tasyavai. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. So, Sri Suta Goswami is explaining to Shaunaka Rishi and the other sages at Naimisharanya what was Yudhishthir Maharaj's rule like when Yudhishthir Maharaj was ruling the earth planet. So, after Yudhishthir Maharaj returned, after Bhishma Dev's departure, Yudhishthir Maharaj came back. And now, so in one of the previous verses, we read that after being enlightened, Maharaj Yudhishthir, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Dev and Lord Sri Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge. What is this perfect knowledge? He engaged in the matters of perfect knowledge because all his misgivings were eradicated. So, this perfect knowledge is the root cause of all ignorance. In fact, the root cause of all our problems, whoever one may be, right from Lord Brahma up to the most insignificant creature that we can think of in the material world. Everybody's problem is ignorance. What is the cause of that ignorance? Turning away from the Supreme Lord. We are all parts and parcels of Krishna, and as the duty of the part is to serve the whole, similarly the duty of the living entity is to serve the Supreme Lord. We are there for his enjoyment. But when we turn our face away from the Supreme Lord, then all our problems begin. We are in ignorance, we are covered by Maya, false ego comes in, we are caught up in dualities. We think someone is my enemy, someone is my friend. And because of all this, now we are stuck in the cycle of repeated birth and death. And birth and death means struggle for existence. And this is going on practically eternally. That's why we are called Nitya Baddha, eternally conditioned. That is the situation of all the living entities in the material world. So all the living entities need this perfect knowledge. What is that perfect knowledge? You have turned away from the Supreme Lord. You have turned away from the source. Now you have to turn back to the Supreme Lord. I was just, when I studied in a Christian convent school. So we used to sing a song like the sunflower that follows every movement of the sun. So I turn towards you to follow you, my Lord. So you see the sunflower, it's always facing the sun. So in the morning, the sunflower will be turned to one direction, and then during the day it will turn. So it's just following the movement of the sun. So that's how we should be. We should be turning towards the Lord, not turning away from the Lord. The shadow is away from light, isn't it? Darkness is away from light, whereas the sunflower is always turning towards the sun. So the devotee is praying, let me be like the sunflower who's always turning towards the Lord. So that's perfect knowledge. To once again turn towards the Lord, that is perfect knowledge. Then we are in our constitutional position. And when we are in our constitutional position, there is no lacking. There's no dearth of anything. Everything is in sufficient quantity, in surplus. So yesterday's verse we read that during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthir, the clouds showered all the water that people needed. The earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. The cows are so happy. Everything, the whole nature is producing everything in abundance, in profusion. When the leader is a Vaishnava, then the whole, when the emperor is a Vaishnava, who is himself a great devotee of the Lord, so because of him, naturally, all the followers, all the subjects, they will also be trained in Krishna consciousness. And the result is the material nature is so happy. You see, don't we see in this world, do you ever see, except for human being, any other being, whether it is a tree or an animal or insect, going against the laws of nature? They all follow the laws of nature, isn't it? So Prakriti, material nature, knows that she is a servant of the Supreme Lord. We are all supposed to serve the Supreme Lord. This is the Lord's plan for all the conditioned souls. In the 3rd chapter, Krishna says, Sahayagya praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam esha ostishta kamaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu. He sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Lord Vishnu and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagya, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and for achieving liberation. So the complete program is already there. If we simply acknowledge the supremacy of the Lord, our dependence on the Lord, then everything that we need is available. The Lord made all arrangement. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. This whole creation, material creation, is complete in itself. There are many such complete units coming out of the Supreme Lord, who is complete. But the beauty is each unit which is coming from the Lord, whether you take it as the whole universe or as an individual being, is complete in itself for its sustenance. After the child is born, the child doesn't depend on the mother for its, well, you can substitute, of course, the child depends. There is some little dependence, mother's milk, but it's able to, for breathing and for digestion, like when the baby is in the mother's womb, it's dependent on the mother, isn't it? It's part of the mother. But once the child comes out, it's an individual unit, it's complete in itself. So this whole Prakriti, this material creation, is created in such a way that everything is in here. If we simply follow the Lord's plan, then we can live very peacefully here, and we can achieve the success of human form of life. But the problem is we don't follow. So you just take what is the lifestyle that is prescribed by the scriptures. So there are different occupations. There is Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So if you take economic problem, how do you solve economic problem? Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. You can do agriculture, cow protection, and you can trade. Grow your food, take care of cows, and then you can trade. By this, all economic problem is solved. And if we followed this system, it's a closed system. So although you're using the resources of the earth, so the bottom line is you are following the order of the Supreme Lord. If you live your lifestyle according to the rules, according to the instructions given by the Supreme Lord, then there won't be competition. Why is there competition? Because we always feel that it is not enough. Whatever there is, there's limited supply and there's more people to take. So therefore there's competition. Who will get first, right? Struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, as Darwin said. But the fact is, everything is in surplus. There's more than what you need. You see, milk, the cows were so happy that the whole pasturing ground is wet. It's muddy with cow's milk. How is it happening? Because the cow is very cheerful. It's being taken care of. And what is the situation today? The cows are being slaughtered. And although they are producing, right, cows and then slaughtering them, even taking their milk, but they are not happy. The cows are not happy. When they give their milk, they are not happy because they know they'll be killed. So all that karma we are taking in. So to guide the people on the proper path, a good leader, when you say a good leader, you need a Vaishnava. One who, see what does Srila Prabhupada say in the purport? The secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Where there is a good leader, the whole community, the whole society, the whole planet will flourish. And when we say a good leader means one who takes refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. What does it mean to take refuge in the Supreme Lord? It is surrender. There are 6 types of surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya vivarjanam. Rakshayishyati iti vishvasaha goptritve varanam atma nikshepaha and karpanyam. So first one is taking refuge in the Lord. What is the first step? Anukulyasya sankalpaha. You accept those things which are favorable to Krishna consciousness. You have to please the Lord. First, understand what is it that the Lord wants us to do, isn't it? and then you do those things and reject those things. Pratikulyasya vivarjanam. Reject those things which are not favorable. Rakshayishyati iti vishvasaha. Don't worry, if I give up this, then how will I maintain myself? Who will take care of? Krishna will protect me. His promise is there. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Don't worry, Krishna is saying, I will give you protection. So when somebody is living by the principle of taking refuge, especially if the leader is doing that, then all the dependents, all the subjects under that leader, they will be very, very peaceful, very, very cheerful. And when we talk about an emperor who is controlling the whole planet, then the material nature, who is material nature? You remember we read in earlier chapter Vyasdev, when Vyasdev in his meditation after Srila Narad Muni told him to glorify devotional service to the Supreme Lord, to talk about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Then Srila Vyasdev sat in meditation, and in that purified consciousness, he actually got darshan of the Supreme Lord along with his material energy. He saw both the Lord and the material energy. But what was the position of the material energy? She was embarrassed to stand in front of him. She couldn't stand in front of him. She's standing behind him. She's a servant of the Supreme Lord. She's a maid servant of the Supreme Lord. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Hetunanena kaunteya jagad vipari vartate. So this material nature is working under my supervision, Krishna says. So the material nature knows that everything is Krishna's property. Everything must be engaged in Krishna's service. Whoever is engaging Krishna's property in Krishna's service, that person will receive. She will release all her supplies in profusion. Whereas the person who does not offer to the Supreme Lord, who does not acknowledge the Supreme Lord, who doesn't try to please the Supreme Lord, then she will withhold. What happened in the case of Vena Maharaj? Vena, the son of King Anga, he stopped all yagyas. He stopped all worship in the temples. He said, now you should worship me. I am the Supreme Lord. As a result, so when the worship of the Supreme Lord stopped, when the dharma was stopped, then earth withheld all her produce. She was not providing anything. And then Prithu Maharaj came. And still, by that time, the earth was not releasing anything. So then Prithu Maharaj actually went and, he convinced the earth. And he milked her. She was in the form of a cow, and he was like a cowherd who milked, right? In fact, he was like a calf, right? That milked. That means now the earth was producing everything once again, because there was a Vaishnava king. So when there is a proper leader, then material nature will provide everything in profusion. But if there is, and when you mean, what do you mean by a proper leader? One who is a devotee of the Lord, who knows how to please the Lord, who takes refuge in the Supreme Lord. Then everything is provided. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was under the protection of Ajita. Ajita means one who cannot be conquered, the infallible Lord. And also we read, when Yudhishthira Maharaj became the emperor, when Krishna installed Yudhishthira Maharaj as the emperor, he was very pleased. Krishna was very pleased. So what is the secret of success? You have to please the Supreme Lord by taking refuge. So the other steps of taking refuge, I told you, first is anukulyasya, accepting that which is favorable, rejecting that which is unfavorable. Then having confidence that Krishna will protect me. Why? because I have taken shelter of him. He's a good master. He does not abandon his servants. He gives full protection to his servants. I have put myself in his care. He will protect me. He will give me protection. Goptritva Varanam means taking Krishna as one's guardian, right? He will give me whatever I need. He is my guardian. And Atma Nikshepaha. Atma Nikshepaha means I will live the way Krishna will keep me. Mare Krishna rakhe Krishna mare ke. Full dependence on the Lord. If he kills me, I will die. If he keeps me, I will live. Also in Shikshashtakam, the last verse. Ashlishyava padaratam pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotuva. Yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampato. Mat prananathastu saeva napara. Krishna, either you embrace me or you break my heart by not being present before my eyes. You can treat me in whatever way you like. This is Atma Nikshepaha. You can do whatever you like with me, but you will always remain my heart and soul, my worshipable Lord. This is Atma Nikshepaha. Whatever you do, you can treat me whichever way you like. I will remain your return. I don't have any other master except you. You are my only master. And the last one is Karpanyam. Karpanyam means becoming very, very meek. So you see our Acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we see the songs of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur. How do they write? Even Srila Prabhupada, I am a puppet in your hands. Make me dance as you like. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. Or Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, I am so fallen. I am lower than the worm in the stool. If anyone even hears my name, he will lose all his piety. I am worse than Jagai and Madhai. This is Karpanyam. Karpanyam means they genuinely feel themselves to be so insignificant, so lowly, so fallen. That's a very high stage of surrender to the Supreme Lord. It cannot be imitated. They actually genuinely feel. We may think, how is it possible? Just take the example of Yudhishthir Maharaj. Yudhishthir Maharaj, first of all, even before the battle started, up to the point of the battle, they tried everything possible to avoid this battle. They didn't take one step against Krishna's will. Krishna personally went as a peace messenger. Still, the other party looked like they were bent on having a battle. So finally they had to fight. And even after the battle started, again Arjun didn't want to fight. Krishna spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita. And then the battle started. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, I have already killed everyone. This is my plan. You simply take the credit. And after hearing all this, now when the battle is over, Yudhishthir Maharaj is feeling, because of me, so many people are killed. I am so sinful. I am going to go to hell. This is Karpanyam. This is Karpanyam. A Vaishnava always, it's the natural humility of the heart of a Vaishnava. You really don't need a reason. Generally, we think who becomes very guilty or feels very, who repents, someone who does something wrong, isn't it? That's our understanding. Somebody who does something wrong, and then if he's a good person, he will repent. Oh, I've done something bad. Shouldn't have done that. But actually, a Vaishnava's heart is always humble. He's always repenting. This is Karpanyam. He thinks, I'm so lonely, I'm so fallen, and it's not just about me. It's about Krishna is so wonderful, Krishna is so great. I'm not at all qualified. Still, Krishna is giving me a chance to chant his holy names, to associate with his devotees. He's giving me opportunities to render devotional service. I'm not at all qualified. How merciful is Krishna? Karpanyam. So when such a Vaishnava, when he becomes the emperor, how pleased is Krishna? Because the purpose of this whole material creation is to uplift all these conditioned souls, to bring them back home, back to Godhead. And when there is a qualified ruler like Yudhishthir Maharaj, who takes up this position, this task, then how pleased Krishna is. Because this king, he is not there in his position simply to enjoy his post, right? Save as much money as he can while he is in the post and put in his bank account so that after his term, then he will live, he'll retire peacefully. That's not his intention. He is there to serve the people. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, right, that such a king, he is conscious that he is a servant of the Lord. He is there simply to serve the Lord, to help all these people, the souls, to become Krishna conscious. Yeah. Today's slogan is that everything is for the people and therefore the government is for the people and by the people. But to produce a new species of humanity at the present moment on the basis of God consciousness, a new species of humanity, what is that? Where right now, what is the mood of all the people? You know, beg, borrow, or steal, but enjoy ghee. That is Charvaka Muni's philosophy. That's what it is. Just enjoy life, right? Be merry and enjoy life. That is today's society's consciousness. But we have to, Srila Prabhupada is saying that to produce a new species of humanity. So what would this new species do? The idea of this new species is to have the ideology of godly communism. So in communism, we want equality, isn't it? Everyone should have equal rights. You know, whatever wealth is there, it is distributed equally amongst all individuals. Communism. But we want godly communism. Everyone is a servant of Krishna. The center is the Supreme Lord. Everyone is trying to please the Supreme Lord. That is godly communism. And we need such a society which is filled with this species of humanity, who are all God-centered, right? Krishna is in the center. Everyone is trying to please Krishna. How we can get such a society? When we have a king like Yudhishthir Maharaj, then it is possible. There are many points that can be discussed here. Srila Prabhupada says, you know, the purpose, everything that is there in this world, you know, whether the different types of plants, we don't know the purpose of, actually every plant has a purpose. There are medicinal plants, there are fruit trees, there are so many plants. But everyone has a purpose. Each and every plant has a purpose. We are not aware of that. Another point that Srila Prabhupada makes here is that because of this dependence on factories and tools, it has rendered a lot of people, first of all, since the energy of the mass of people is engaged in factory production, yes, everyone is working in the modern way of life, right? Factories and trucks and software buildings. So as a result, the natural products are being hampered. Even our medical system. Earlier, we used to use, if you have a cold or fever or some stomach pain or something, you know, our mothers would know some natural remedies at home and we would treat ourselves. But now we run to the hospital for every small thing, isn't it? That means this, and what has happened because of this dependence? The natural products are being hampered. So the cows and the bulls, I heard from His Holiness Varshana Swami Maharaj. Maharaj used to take care of oxen and horses when they were farming in New Vrindavan. So Maharaj said, the animals don't like to be sitting idle. They feel they're like us. They're also living entities. They feel happy when they are of some use. They can be of some use. So when the oxen till the ground, they are very cheerful. They are very happy because they have that energy. They have that capability which is being used. What to speak of if it is being used in the service of Krishna? That is the perfection. Similarly with horses. So that's the case for everything. All different, whether plants or animals, everyone has some purpose which can be engaged in the service of the Lord. But the modern, I don't know what to call this, civilization or technology, it has hampered, it has hampered the natural products. And the result is they are unhappy because they are not able to offer what they have to offer. And we are also unhappy. Everyone is unhappy. What is the root cause? Because of not following the orders of the Supreme Lord. So if we have a good leader who will teach everyone, first of all, he is living himself by that principle, and then he is inspiring everyone else to live by that principle, then it becomes Rama Rajya or Yudhishthir Maharaj's rule or Parikshit Maharaj's rule. Everyone is happy. So we must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison here and should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthir to cleanse man and wipe out anachronism. Anachronism means out of time. Out of time. So we are supposed to follow Krishna's instructions. But we are not following. We have created our own system. And as a result, everyone is suffering. And still we are in the illusion thinking that we are actually making advancement. We are progressing. Our ancestors are primitive. We are the advanced, evolved living beings. But the result is we are all unhappy with this evolved system. There may be some comforts to some few, but the damage is much, much more compared to the small quantity of benefits that we may receive. And even these benefits will be lost. It's not going to stay for long because it is a linear system. You're simply exploiting, you're using, you're not replenishing, you're not refilling. So how long can we use? So the reactions will come. So I will stop here. If there is any comments or questions. Yeah. So if there's no questions or discussions, yes, Dronacharya.
Hare Krishna, Mother Archana Bhakti. Thank you so much for this class. And this theme is continuing over the last couple of verses, over the last couple of classes. And it's made me really kind of ponder and think about our mission. Because when we look at what's being described in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purports, it's a world that's much different than the world we live in today. And there's a really huge gap between where things would need to be restored to as to where the current condition is. And when you look at, those that have just some understanding of it, even just preliminary knowledge of it, it's very, very few. We may go, we may come to a temple, maybe there's, 100-200 people that assemble, and that's just to kind of basically come to worship. But this information, this knowledge isn't really being disseminated and given out and spread at a rate to really have any, substantial change. I mean, just in the Philadelphia region alone, just the counties, Philadelphia and the counties, there may be about 4 million people, so maybe 100 or 200 people may assemble here, another 100 here. And then of those, how many people really, are grasping and understanding this. So what can be done, to really, kind of make this gap? Because I too was thinking this in terms of, okay, well, this is something of the past. And then Srila Prabhupada writes in there, this is not to be, and that term he used, I had to look it up before you met, anachronism.
Yes.
And I'm glad you defined it there, because I wasn't sure what that meant. And when I read it, when I heard it, when you read that, I looked it up. I said, this isn't supposed to be like just kind of like an ancient relic. Yeah, long time ago, there was a Maharaj Yudhisthira and there's a Prithu Maharaj, and there were great leaders, but now we just have to settle for what we have. So what are your thoughts on that? How do we fill this gap? How do we make steps to starting to make really positive changes in this world?
I can share with you some ideas that I heard from my teachers and who are working in that direction. So really what you need is a Kshatriya, because here we are talking about administration. So what they're doing is, even in these verses, when Srila Prabhupada gave classes on these verses, in one of these verses, Srila Prabhupada said that we should even have devotees should even enter into politics, like they actually take positions of leaders in the administration, like Yudhishthir Maharaj. Then when you have that power, you can actually make substantial changes. Just organizing the society, the education system, the medical system, you have more power from that angle, being a leader, and you can make substantial changes. So it's very important to have a Kshatriya, to have a leader who is a Vaishnava. So that is one thing. And meanwhile, while that is happening, our temples should not simply be places of worship. There are certainly places of worship, but Srila Prabhupada said there are also education centers. So we should have the resources should be provided for people about, even if somebody is interested in turning towards Varnashram system, how to go about it. Can I start here? Do I have to move to India to start a simple life? Can I do it here? Are there others who are doing it? Can I connect with others? So all this information, and also how to actually do it practically, this has to be provided at our temples to the society. And also we understand, not everyone is going to be necessarily a Hare Krishna devotee, who would come and take initiation. But we should be prepared to train different people at different levels. We should be prepared to give them, just like the Vedas. In the Vedas, you have, of course, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas. That's the ultimate, the cream of all Vedas. Nevertheless, there are people who don't come to that standard. Most people don't come to that standard. But still, the Vedas are giving opportunity for those who are in the mode of ignorance. There are some Puranas. For those who are in the mode of passion, there are some Puranas. For those who are in ignorance, there are some Puranas. So by following the instructions of those Puranas, they can also make gradual progress. So similarly, we should have tools, we should have resources available for different classes of people, not just somebody, like you have to, that is given when we go out for book distribution, that information is already given, that this is the best. And those who are willing to take to that, they come and they join the temple, or they start practicing in their homes. They take to Krishna consciousness. That is wonderful. But even those that are not taking to Krishna consciousness directly, we should have ways to engage them, to bring them under the system. So for that, we have to understand the system properly ourselves. We have to understand the system. How the society, this Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam, this is a scientific system. It is already there. You just have to identify it. Like when Krishna says, I have divided the society into 4 orders. So that had, so in order to identify who belongs to which category, we need a Kshatriya, a leader who has that type of, and now you may ask, so where do we get this leader? So first of all, we have to educate ourselves, right? We have to educate ourselves. So anyone who's even, just like you are saying, you're considering this. So that's a very good start. You can be a leader. You can start getting more information because you have that vision. You're already thinking about how can I help all these people who are not taking to Krishna consciousness? So first we have to identify them. Where do they belong? We find one thing is somebody who doesn't do any direct devotional service, but he can offer the results of his work. That's one category. So that means they're doing some work, nevertheless, nishkam karma. So all this information is there in Bhagavad Gita. So first of all, we have to educate ourselves properly. And then we should have all the resources ready for the people when they come. And of course, how to reach out to the people. So reaching out to the people, that would be possible when someone is in power. So if a devotee is in power, then that will be, we see that in India happening. Quite drastic changes are happening because the leader is quite dharmic. So which we didn't see in several decades before. Now we see things happening because he is, he's a religious person, a spiritual person. So he's working in that direction. And there's a lot of change in the people in general, in the majority of the people. So, yeah, a devotee will have to take to leadership. Then on a bigger scale for the society at large, some changes can be brought on a bigger scale. But meanwhile, we should be prepared within our centers to welcome all people and be able to identify. There should be a spot for everyone. Even if they're not able to come to this standard, still there should be room for them, how they can be guided from where they are situated. These are some ideas, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Very thought-provoking. This is, I think, a subject that, as you said, we should really, continue to explore and talk about amongst the devotees who have an interest in this, and how we can make a local difference. And Srila Prabhupada, he really laid it out in the, especially in the first purpose of ISKCON. When he says, this is, and especially to the point when you mentioned that, not everybody may, be chanting 16 rounds and waking up early and doing, morning puja and, saying that they're, ISKCON devotee or whatever. But really to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge in society and to educate. You use the word educate. We have to educate all people on the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and achieve unity and peace in the world. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
No.
I'm just appreciating what a great responsibility Yudhishthir Maharaj had. He was the emperor of the whole planet, and and everyone was completely satisfied. Not just the people, even material nature. Everyone was so satisfied that. So, what kind of a leader he must be?
And to satisfy people is not an easy thing. You know, people in general are very difficult. It's very hard to satisfy people. Most of the time you think about satisfying, it's, you know, you have to deliver what, you know, kind of what they need, and to think that everybody was satisfied. And even just the animals were satisfied, the nature was satisfied. We learned it's through, you know, Krishna must have been satisfied, because Krishna being the source of everything else, so how could everything be satisfied? Everything was in alignment.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. So that was said in the previous verse that Krishna was very happy to install. That means Krishna satisfied. And because Krishna satisfied, now the nature is providing. And here also about it's not easy to satisfy everyone. Srila Prabhupada says the secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. So that's where you see the greatness of a leader. The leader is never thinking that he is the one who's managing everything. He's the one doing. He's always, we see that in great leaders like Srila Prabhupada and even our spiritual masters. You see, a great leader is always completely depending on the Supreme Lord. He's feeling completely dependent on the Lord. So that his success is because of his dependence on the Supreme Lord. He's not thinking that he's the one who's doing. And Prabhupada says that is the success. That's the secret to success. Easier said than done. That's why they're so great. So I will end. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Kalpesh Prabhu and Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you for such a wonderful class as always. Thank you for that. On the note of like the cow slaughters, and yesterday also I brought up some points. I have a photo I wanted to show. Is it possible if I can share, like I have a downloaded photo?
Let me see. Okay, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Okay, let me try. Share. Can everybody see?
Yeah, we can see.
All right. So this is the photo. Blow up this. So this photo, I got it downloaded from the Google. As you can see, there are bunches of conglomerates which are sponsoring in the name of US Dietary Advisory Committee. All right. And there are beef associations in the below, all this, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to make a point here is, since ISKCON is an international society of Krishna consciousness, and there are leadership involved in this, would that be possible that because we have such a big population, changing the individual, because many of them people are like followers in the society, but if the leader's mind changes, then there is a possibility to have some results.
Certainly.
Yeah, so that is what my thought process was. And the hypocrisy, we see it like they are naming in terms of heart association. And if you explore the websites, there are recipes provided how to prepare for beef and all those things. And there is also studies which shows that these are all carcinogenic and all those things, health related. So what I'm making a point here is, these are the people who are sponsoring the food genocide and trying to do this. So at least because the ISKCON is such a big leadership, they have this opportunity to reach out, maybe try to send it like a correspondence letters saying and trying to address the purport, whatever we have, like how it affects the society in the bigger way. I mean, something like that, or go to them on one-on-one, do a personal interview, broadcast in the temple what they have to say about these opinions. I mean, those are the things, I mean, small tries, because if these people change their mind, 50%, 60% problem goes away, because they are responsible for today's cow slaughters, and which is related to climate crisis, which is related to soil crisis, which is related to many other crises, which we are seeing in this world. Whenever we enter in the grocery store, there are thousands and thousands of processed products which are making humans sick. The United States healthcare bill itself is ridiculous. I mean, it's bigger than Indian whole economy, in trillions of dollars. So that saving, when people feel good about themselves in terms of health, things will reciprocate. So I just wanted to, I can share this photo if you guys are interested further, but I see that Dronacharya Prabhu brought up, and being in the leadership position, if somebody can start communicating something to this individual, try to reach out, try to do personal interviews, or invite in temples for certain occasions, and show what we are really trying to do here for the welfare of humanity, what we are trying to. So, I mean, constantly trying to ask people, any event we do in the temple, invite the politicians, governor, or whoever it is. It is up to them, or even the secretary level. So when you start inviting that bigger folks into the temple, the audience will draw automatically, and then that reciprocation of knowledge would start. This was my humble opinion. I just wanted to share, because I'm actively doing this through my groups and WhatsApp group, and I see that I feel a pain in my heart for cows. So I feel that way. So by the time this lecture is over, it has been 36,000 cows are already slaughtered. And this is based on not my numbers. It is United Nations which gave 2016 data. There are around 300 million cows are slaughtered.
Yes, even Srila Prabhupada's in this lecture, Srila Prabhupada says this was back then in the 70s. Every day, 12,000 cows are slaughtered in India, Srila Prabhupada said. So I'm not surprised that today, if it is millions of cows, yeah.
India, because we are the one, we say it is a land of Krishna and all, so, and it's a Sanatan Dharma. So India ranks number 5th. I mean, of course, the United States did not have this knowledge. The Western world did not have this knowledge. But what about India? Yeah. Where this was like every house used to have a cow, and it's like mother. We also give a symbolism that she's our mother, because we drink we stopped drinking our mother's milk. We have been constantly fed the cow's milk, and when you drink your mother milk and you start killing it, then that is considered a cannibalism. So Pythagoras very well said, if you sow a seed of murder and something, you will only reap killers, in the society. So that is how the mindset. It takes just a few years to just happens that, but yeah. So thank you for this opportunity for
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So as Srila Prabhupada ends the purport, we must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison, like how Kalpesh Prabhu said about cow slaughter. When Yudhishthir Maharaj, when Parikshit Maharaj saw even one cow was attempted by Kali, was attempted to be killed, immediately Parikshit Maharaj went there with his sword to protect the cow. So we need that type of a leader. Then the people in general can be peaceful and they can prosper spiritually and materially also. There will be, enough for peaceful living when we have a good leader. And good leader means one who takes refuge in the protection of the Supreme Lord. That's a good leader. So we will stop here. It's past 9 o'clock. Thank you very much, everyone. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila
Yes.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mother Archana Bhakti.